Guys, what's going on though? YouTube, GCTV, back with another video, and we're reviewing the 8th episode of Beef. I'm slowly and steadily getting through this show, and once the show's over, obviously, we can watch the other shows and get them over with quicker. Walking Dead might take me the whole summer. It probably will. Dexter I should be getting done in a couple months. But let's just talk about this episode, give my thoughts, kind of review it a little bit for you guys. If something big comes up, I'll probably mention it, but I'm probably just going to read off my notes here. So, Amy invites an old stranger from an online chess game to have sex at a dingy motel as episode 8 of Beef begins, and we're not really sure. I'm kind of confused of where in the storyline this happens. I mean, I guess it's like in the present, because maybe she needs to take a load off, like literally. She covers her face with a blanket and places herself in the doggy position. I mean, this is a really odd scene, and it really shows how odd Amy is and what lengths she would go to relieve stress and to escape her normal life. As the act begins, Amy veers through the covers at her face in the mirror and sees a creepy white-skinned lady with jet black hair and a crooked nose, and we kind of see this throughout the episode. It's kind of symbolic of like her youth, her trauma, I guess. The day after the fire, Fumi and Amy go on another shopping spree. Fumi promises to talk to George and convince him to listen to Amy. Now, we're not even sure if Amy actually burned it down. Like, there's no proof yet, but we're pretty sure she did. Even though he would get half of everything if they get a divorce, Fumi sees Amy as George's rock and says he would have been at the bottom of the ocean had Amy not been there for him and had they not got married in the first place. Because, yeah, George doesn't have a lot to live for. Like, that's not even trying to be rude. Well, not a lot to live for. I guess that's like a rude way to word that. He doesn't have a lot going for his life. All he does is makes these artistic vases and he barely gets big sales. Also, she calls him a hack artist who would have starved as he has no real talent. Jesus. His mom's even saying that. We spin back to Amy's past, to the day she bunked school and planned an outing. She saw her father crawling with another woman. Yeah, her childhood's really fucked up, and we're starting to learn what her childhood is like. We're going to learn a little bit about Danny's. This is like very necessary for this show. Amy saw the manifestation of that creepy lady, whose origins we will understand later in this episode. In the present, Amy visits her parents, who live in the same house, and this is the first time in the present we're going to be introduced to her parents, so that's interesting. They are surprised to see her. Amy has not been in regular contact with her, and there's probably good reason not. In fact, the last they talked was 2 years ago. There is underlying tension between Amy and her father, Bruce. I mean, her and her mother, it's kind of like a neutral situation. When he mentions that Amy isn't as committed to them as some of their friends' children, Amy retaliates by saying they did not want her in the first place. Like, what the hell are you talking about, In Asian cultures, a boy is preferred to a girl owing to the responsibility of marriage. This might allude to that cultural phenomenon. We're learning a little more about Asian culture. Amy's surprised to know that her mother knew about the affair but stuck by her father. In a flashback that goes further back, we see Amy's parents quarreling about the expenses of living in America. Obviously, like thinking about leaving the country. As an immigrant, obviously, it's tough in America. That makes sense, We've seen that firsthand with a lot of people you even see every day, Not every day, but you get me. Amy, meanwhile, reads a book which features that lady. The caption below her photo reads, "Don't misbehave, I'm always watching." She appears in Skin to tell Amy that she will never tell her secrets to anyone, as they won't like her anymore if she does. It's kind of like her dark passenger is kind of what that represents for me, like Dexter, kind of that sort of concept. George and June come back to the house. Amy comes clean about sleeping with Paul to George, but does not get the reaction she was hoping for. He is heartbroken and devastated by the stroke of reality, like he's already heard it once and he's still really upset about it. Which makes sense, obviously. This is a girl you love and this is a girl that's helped you out and she's cheating on you almost to demoralize him, Amy also tells him everything about Danny and the road rage incident. George is shocked to find out the truth, but is more shaken by the sheer banality of it all. He is incredulous that Amy would risk her family for such a petty issue. Amy says she is a bad person, but tried to be good for George. She tried to put on this face, She's trying to get that dark passenger from her childhood away from her. Even though he is supportive, he says he wants a divorce and that June will go with him. because it does appear that, Amy is a problem in the relationship. You look at the financials and, George can't hold up for himself, but Amy's just a shitty person. We figured this out. It's not even just the road rage incident. It's not even a time of her just exploding and having a breakdown. She literally acts like this. In a strange yet beautiful moment, we get another reminder of Amy and Danny's mutuality. We see them as infants in their respective parents' arms back in 1984 who have high expectations for them. Assuming they're around the same age. Amy's a little younger than Danny. In the present, Danny is confused, angry, and devastated. The firemen are still figuring out the cause of the fire. He takes his parents back to the apartment. They're disappointed and tired and will go back to Korea on the earliest flight. He disappointed his parents, and obviously it wasn't even his fault, When Paul mentions what he said to George, Danny instantly thinks Amy is behind this. That's all the evidence he needs. He also sees Edwin drive off haphazardly from the neighborhood. Is he behind the fire? Danny goes to his house later that night, and there is a lot of reasons to think that Edwin would be behind this. You see him kind of in the background at church. He kind of lost his ringleader job at the church, and he's probably really upset. He's going through marriage troubles. He's really jealous of Danny because Danny's kind of gotten the upper hand, even though they're not really competing against each other. I guess Veronica was both their girl at a time. George, despite knowing the truth, still wants to talk to Zane for comfort. When Edwin returns, Danny corners him and ekes out the truth from him. All Edwin did was get magazine subscriptions in Danny's name. That's all he did to fuck with him. He is jealous of Danny because Veronica is still not over Danny and thinks he is the best she ever had. She has also cut off Edwin physically, and Danny consoles him when he breaks down. Obviously Edwin's going through a lot of shit right now. We kind of know this, and it kind of blows up in his face. In a flashback about Danny's childhood, we see him yearning for being at the same level as Paul. He asks Paul to study hard so that he can skip 3 grades and be in Danny's class. He doesn't have anyone to talk to. It's just his brother. Danny is informed that the fire was not arson or caused intentionally. The construction company that made the house installed below par wiring. So it was Danny's fault after all, and he's trying to project blame on Amy, obviously, because it makes sense why she would do that. The irony here is consuming as he lies to Paul about it so that he can keep him under his foot. It is a weird phrase, as that might not be exactly how Danny feels, but it is closer to the truth than anything else. Danny's veiled jealousy is confirmed when we see him throwing Paul's college applications into the bin in another flashback. Danny picks up a Koyo houseplant from Forster's and a gasoline can. He heads to George's home, who panics when he sees Danny at the front door. He reluctantly invites him in, and he pretty much assumes that Danny's going to do something almost like they actually did something to him. So maybe it was arson, but we're pretty sure it wasn't. Danny uses the washroom, but finds George pointing a gun at him when he comes out. He has already called the police. They struggle, and George knocks his head against the wall and falls unconscious. I don't know why the fuck he called the police on him. I don't know, adultery? I don't fucking know what the hell happened. Danny quickly leaves in his truck as he hears the sirens nearby. Irony has once again played a game on him as he notices June sitting with Luca in the back. He is stunned and drives on, fearing what is coming next. Well, this wasn't a crazy episode. They just get more and more intense as we go. This episode of Beef gives us a peek, among other things, into Amy and Danny's childhood, which was much needed. The context is important to understand where they come from, and the sort of challenges they overcame to reach this position. At first, seeing the white lady evoked a wonderment. It gave us the impression that Beef was getting an 824 intervention. Thankfully, though, that was not the case. Props to the creators for not leaving any stone unturned in this roller coaster of a ride. The ups and downs have been terribly violent in either direction. Emotionally, it is not easy for the viewer to absorb everything instantly. Both Amy and Danny are broken souls who just cannot catch a break in their adult lives, and they happen to clash with each other. It's a very interesting dynamic. The mutuality of their conditions draws them apart but keeps them on the same pedestal. On most occasions, such episodes with plot backgrounds are generally filler episodes, but the creators have made sure that is not the case with episode 8. It sets up for an ominous conclusion to this strangely exciting story, which is not heading towards a happy ending. So yeah, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That's all I have to say. Kind of give you guys some thoughts on this. I'm probably going to go watch The Walking Dead and kind of chill out until the game. Lakers, Nuggets, excited. Hopefully I can stay up for the game. because I'm like really tired right now, very winded. If it's a good game, we will talk about it on an NBA recap, and if I feel like it, I'll stream for you guys.